Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another epic episode of the Bikini and the Brain podcast. I'm here with my host, Adam Bo.
What's going on?
Ooh.
What's going on?
I don't know. You remember when we used to have an intro song and then
Oh yeah,
I don't know what happened to it. So I'm making it.
Okay,
intro.
I do have an intro song. We're good. Yeah, our production value needs to go up, right?
It will. Just like two or three more episodes.
We got our sound good. Now we need our
facility.
intros. Yeah, facility. We're inches away from that.
Inches.
So, but
maybe centimeters. Who knows?
Yeah, we're like days away.
Days.
Yeah, days away. Actually, closer than the Olympia, and the Olympia is really close. So look at that.
Ooh, okay.
So,
well, maybe the next one then. We'll see.
So these Q&A episodes seem to be like people's favorites. It seems to be like everyone wants to get their questions answered. They ask more questions after we do the Q&A episode. So we usually do a two-part. So we're going to do a Q&A episode 2. So there's going to be a lot of different things we're going to cover. I don't even know what we're going to talk about entirely today.
Oh yeah, I mean, gosh, we had so many good questions that we just couldn't fit them all into one episode. You guys are good thinkers, right?
Yeah,
there.
Good question askers,
Giving us
right?
Some good content, something to work with here.
Makes it easy on us too. So I'm going to let you start off. Ashley, you got a question pulled up already. We're going to go jump right into it, guys. And then if you have any questions, we're going to be doing these. They're actually, I think they're the most informative, and also to be honest, it's kind of easy to do them too. Like a little bit easier than a normal podcast. Yeah, you know. So
yeah, so let's get this party started,
let's
Adam,
do it.
shall we? So after we posted our episode, I got a lot of questions, just like you mentioned. And this girl, Megan Delighted Fit, she literally wrote a whole novel of questions. So we got to answer at least one of these. Thank you, Megan, for all these questions. And I really, in particularly, liked this question. She asked, so many folks reward themselves with treats. What do you like to reward yourself with? And that's a great question to ask, because I think that's like everyone's go-to, right? Is like, let's say they just finished a show, they want to go out to eat and stuff themselves, or maybe they had a week of intense training and they want to reward themselves. But I tend to not like to use food as a reward, because oftentimes you can mess up your progress or just counteract all the hard work you put in. And I'm not saying you can't go after a show and have a treat. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think if it happens over and over and you kind of just use that for every event, it can be a little bit problematic. But I will say this, for me, I like to reward myself with like spa day, getting my nails done, massage, hair, nails, all that fun stuff. I know Adam loves getting his nails done too.
Once a year, me and Ashley have I don't know how that started. I guess the first one to start with. Now I do my nails with Ashley once a year. Don't worry, I go clear. Actually, I don't do any coating. I just do polish.
You get the light buff.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important to, recognize that it doesn't always have to be food related as a reward. And I think even after a show, to be honest, I just like have such a big day of excitement. And what I really reward myself with after a show is a good shower and sleep.
Yeah.
I will go out to eat most of the times after, but it's nothing like crazy. Usually it's just like a salad, but I look forward to that shower. But I always say this, Adam, you know what tastes better than a cheat meal?
Winning
tastes better than a cheat meal.
I think that's an important thing for people to like hear too, because we've all seen it, right? Like you do your diet of 16 weeks, you're looking awesome, and then all of a sudden, like you just open that door. And I've seen it happen where we're like, people go and they get like voodoo donuts and they'll be like, oh, I just want one. And but they'll buy like the box for like their friends and stuff. And the next thing you know, the whole donut thing is gone before they even get back to the show or whatever, like it's,
yeah.
I've seen that craziness happen so many times. And then like within a week, it just doesn't stop for some people. And then within a week they're up, 10 pounds, 12 pounds. And I'm like, look, we just lost in a week, like the last 6 weeks of progress. Like there's a lot of things that are happening post show that you really do need to be cautious of, and you need to do your diet correctly in that post show. And actually we could kind of talk about that a little bit, and that the post show dieting, like, maybe we should go into that in like a full episode, because post show dieting is so critical in how you're doing it. When you talk about like how you're introducing foods and the macros that you're introducing, so like the ratios of proteins, all that stuff matters in the post show quite a bit, So that's why I'm not another reason I'm not a huge fan of macro dieting is because in that post show, like how you lay things out is critical for getting your calories up without rapidly gaining back body fat. You're in a very susceptible period of time where your body can just soak up body fat. You have all these things going on with leptin and ghrelin and because your body's ability to just store fat instantly right after a show. So
can I just say ghrelin? I hate that word. It sounds disgusting, but that's the hunger hormone, correct?
Yeah, leptin and ghrelin. So basically they control your
ghrelin.
Yeah, everyone says it differently. Ghrelin.
Still sounds disgusting.
It's so I don't even know to be honest, I don't even know the 100% correct pronunciation because different doctors call it different things and stuff. So I'm like, okay, who's right? So but it doesn't matter. That's so you have your hunger hormone and you have your satiety hormone basically. So one hormone will tell you I'm hungry, and then one hormone will tell you I'm full basically. So say I'm full, so stop eating, right? So the problem is when you're dieting really hard, you kind of change those factors because your body is trying to survive. So it's trying to basically keep fat and not have no fat energy stores, right? So it tells you, oh, I'm still hungry, even if you're like you should be stuffed full. And then it doesn't tell you for a long time you're like I'm full hormone. It doesn't tell you for a long time after you're eating that you're full. So you're in a very susceptible place because one hormone is telling you you're hungry. And even when you should be stopping because you normally would be full, that hormone isn't telling you you're full. So you just eat and eat and eat. And it's your body's way of kind of keeping itself alive. It's a survival mechanism. So
God bless.
Yeah, I know those things are running rampant when you're out of a show. Your ability to store body fat is at a much higher rate than when you're like first start dieting. Your insulin sensitivity is in a place where carbohydrates are going to be super sensitive to them. If you've been on a low carb diet the whole time and then all of a sudden you introduce a bunch of carbohydrates. So you're just like really susceptible to gaining body fat back at a rapid pace. And even people who are like, oh, I'm only eating 2,000 calories post show. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't.
Per day or at a cheat meal reward?
Well, like per day, like even people who are like saying, oh, I'm not even eating that many calories. There's a period of time where you have to be sensitive with how you're introducing calories and the way that you're introducing them. And I always tell everyone, like everyone thinks show is the most important thing. Post show is the most important thing. There's nothing more important because it sets you up for success for the rest of the year.
So what do you think is an ideal treat meal, or if they're going out to dinner with their family after a show, what would you suggest? I know I usually do like a big salad, maybe like a roll on the side, or something of that nature, but it's never like a pizza and cheesecake and 5 drinks kind of deal,
Yeah.
What would you suggest? What's an ideal one? What would you do?
So here's the thing. So I'm going to give you 2 different answers because 2 different types of people, right? So if you have your person who is like, all I care about, there's certain people that are in this mindset. I would say probably 10% of first year competitors are in the mindset of they don't care. They just want to win and they just want to be the best they can. Mm-hmm. And if you look at these top athletes in the world, like the LeBron Jameses, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, these guys, like the Wayne Gretzky's, they don't care about the sacrifice. They're just going to do it. They're just going to practice. They're going to show up. They don't care about anything besides that. And those are the people who make it to the top. And everyone else is like, why don't I make it to the top? Well, you didn't work as hard as this person 100% of the time. So you have those people out there, okay? And you're kind of in that bracket too, because you do work really hard. And if you do a cheat meal, it's pretty minimal. So, and then I have other people who are like, even pros that,
go ham.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be
everything you can fit in your mouth.
If you want to be a pro, if you want to be a pro at any sport, it takes dedication 100% of the time. And you got to understand that you're trying to compete with this minute, like this just micro percentage of people who are already to be a pro, you got to you have to sacrifice. But then you have the pros who live it 100% of the time. And those are the ones that reach that upper tier. And it's the same thing with all sports. You have one guy in basketball who scores most of the points for the team. You have one guy in hockey who scores most of the goals for the team. It's always that person who gave their whole life to dedicate to something that reaches that upper level. So, and you got to be real with yourself. If you're prepping for 16 weeks and you're 100%, and then the rest of the time you're like, oh, I'm still lifting, but I eat kind of whatever. Like, don't expect the results of the people who are living it like that 100% of the time. And don't get mad when you're not getting there, because that's the reason right there. It's really simple. This is a sport. It takes 100% of everything at every day. There's no days off if you want to be that top person, because if you're not willing to do it, someone else is. And
dang, Adam, you're really beating around the bush here. What's a good cheat meal after a show?
I just see those people and they're like, they'll tell me they're dedicated, but then their actions don't prove it, because after the show they just blow up, you know. And it's like, I've told you 100% of the time like what to do. So like so after the show, so if you're that person, do a high protein meal, because you're going to have very low impact on storing fat with protein. Protein is very difficult for your body to store as fat. So a high protein meal, like if you did like even like a huge steak, like it'll fill you up too. And steak, like meat really fills you up. But the reason is that protein has a low ability to be stored as fat. It's the hardest macro to store as fat. So that's generally how we'll introduce post-show diets, is a higher protein, right? Now, when you're susceptible to storing body fat, you're very sensitive to carbohydrates after a show. Yeah, having a big carbohydrate meal after the show is probably the worst idea in terms of long-term success. Short-term satisfaction, you know, yeah, you have to pick your poison, you know?
Yeah.
If that short-term
cheesecake is poisonous, man.
If your short-term satisfaction is, hey, I just want to post show and I don't care if I gain, 3 pounds, and you want to go ham for a couple nights, a couple days, then that's up to you, you know. But the middle ground would be something like I think a safe one is like, just do a burger and fries like after your show, gluten-free bun usually, because usually you're really sensitive to gluten. You'll hold a lot of water because you haven't been doing it for a while. Those are foods I like to introduce back in slowly. And then after that, go right into your post show. And then once you get your calories up from protein, and then we're exchanging them out and going through the process of post show dieting, which takes, it could take a while to do this post show dieting, depending on how long you're dieting. Usually it's like 4 to 8 weeks, where basically we increase protein, then and make that like the primary calorie source for a short period of time. Once you get less sensitive to those calories, we decrease the protein, increase a little bit of carbohydrates, and we just go through this process of going through that to get your calories up, where you're not gaining body fat. Then you start having more freedom after that, but don't jump right back into it. So that's my long answer to that, which is a very long answer to that. The best way of doing it is high protein meals. And then the second best way is just having one like big carb meal and then going right into your post-show diet. And then the worst way, which is the way that 80% of people do it, is they just go and eat for 2 weeks, whatever they want. Like, oh, I just needed a break. And I'm like, well, you just lost, you literally will lose 16 weeks of progress in 2 weeks. No problem. If you just take time off from the gym, and then you just start eating whatever you want. And then you say, oh, okay, I better keep it under control now. At that point, it's usually too far. And you're back into a 12, 14 week prep, And so I'm huge on that, because I see it happen so much and it breaks my heart. And it
breaks the heart.
It does. I mean,
makes me cry a little bit at night.
Is there anything else in life, maybe gambling, that you could work for 6 months and lose it in 10 days?
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. And I just look at it like, how much freaking cardio and workout and dieting do I have to counteract to, justify this 1 week splurge? So I try to think of you better chill out, Ashley, because you know how hard you have to work to get back where you was. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's just the effort of that. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't imagine working for let's say I worked a regular job and worked 40 hours a week for 6 months, and then I go and just put it on black, and I hope it wins. I hope we hit black on this one, it's kind of the same workload reward scenario, right? The reward's pretty big. If you hit black, you're going to do pretty good. You're going to double your money, but the risk is really high to wasting all that time frame, that 6 months. So anyway, huge on that one. All right, this one kind of goes hand in hand with my question, which is, how do you handle negativity with your spouse and friends, during prep? And I think that, I think that goes hand in hand, because when you're done with the show, people don't understand the sensitivities of how fast you can gain body fat back. So you all have those friends, oh, let's go out and let's just go party for a week. And let's go eat. I'll take you to breakfast. I'll take you to lunch the next day. I'll take you to dinner. We'll go here. We'll go there. We're going to get our pizza. We haven't had pizza in so long. And you have to be smart about that, and explain that to them. Hey, it's not done yet. My diet's not done, even though my show's over. My plan still isn't done. It's ongoing and continuous if I'm going to try to progress to the next level and not blow up after the show. So that's one thing. You should kind of set them up and explain that to them, because they don't know. Yeah. They don't know how rapidly you can gain back body fat after a show.
Yeah, I definitely have dealt with that in my life. Kind of like the guilt trip of oh man, can't you just be normal? I mean, yeah. I would love let's just go out to eat, you're no fun kind of thing. And, it's kind of like you have to surround yourself with people that understand. And if they don't, tell them again. And if not, F it,
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not going to cave in for somebody else to, kind of guilt trip me into what they think is normal and how I should eat or whatever. And, after that,
yeah.
Sir.
And I think the good thing too is for people who are listening to this, I think there's a lot of people out there who can kind of take this in, and I know it's a little hard to hear, but it's the truth, you know. And I think some people can take this in and be like, okay, am I one of those people who is awesome for 16 weeks and not for 8 months? And then look at Ashley and be like, okay, she made it to the top. I mean, she's the most winning bikini pro in the history of the sport. How is she doing her off seasons? And you guys are hearing it straight from the horse's mouth here. She's not going crazy in the off season. She's not blowing up. She's having maybe one cheat meal after the show and then going right back to plan after that. And that's what it takes to get there. And if you want to get there, that's just what it takes. It takes 100% dedication, 100% of the time, because someone is going to put in that work. I mean, if you've seen Issa this year, I guarantee you haven't seen her without abs the whole year, you know? So that's just, you know, just put that in your mindset of like, this sport is the hardest sport in the world, because it's, every other sport's like practice, right? You practice and you just can go eat whatever. It's not a big deal. And you're done with practice, done with your training, and the rest of the day is free, but not our sport. Our sport is practice is the gym. And then the rest of the practice is 24 hours of the day where you got to sleep right, you got to eat right, so everything is practice the whole day. So,
Yes.
but back to the question of how do you handle the negativity? I'm going off on that because I just, shows are starting to end and people are starting to do it, you know? And even my people that I'll say this, you know, I'll put it out there. We just had a coaches meeting the other day where I talked about post-show dieting, the importance of it, and we'll still have people do it, you know? And it's like, and it sucks, but it's their choice, you know? There's nothing you can do about it if they're going to go that route. But as far as dealing with negativity, I'm a huge fan of keeping my circle small and keeping my circle positive. Even on my Instagram, on my YouTube, and I'm very vocal about it. If someone leaves a negative comment, just one, they're blocked instantly. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's, I don't care who it is. If they leave a negative comment, then I don't need that negativity in my life. It's not adding to my life any value, so I'm getting them out of my life. So anytime someone kind of disrupts my life in a way where it's not making me excel, where I'm not benefiting from the relationship in a positive way, then I'm going to be out of that relationship. So there's this saying that says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. There's another saying is you're the sum of the 5 people closest to you. And I keep that circle very, very small because I want everyone to be able to make me better, and I want to be able to make them better and benefit from it. And if anyone's taking away from that, not helping me get to my goals, then you're not ready for my relationship. And you're in my
MySpace top 5.
You're my top 5. You're actually like the person I spend the most time with, even though I like live with Anya. But me and Anya, I work so much. I spend time with like once a week, twice a week.
Well, I feel super special.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? But it's a positive thing. We can vent to each other when we have our thing.
I always say you are very motivating, even if we're literally just doing a workout, like an arm workout or whatever. I'm always so much more motivated when I'm with you, because like I don't know, you're motivating. You're very cheerful and very uplifting, and it's like I get that energy from you. You know, some people you hang around them and it's like exhausting. You're like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't feel like that with you, so I haven't gotten annoyed with you yet. So.
And we spent a lot of time together too. I call those people energy vampires.
Oh, yeah.
Energy vampires. They just suck the energy out of you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like, if anyone in your life is an energy vampire, you should don't worry about, this is me as like the motivational speaker, right? Don't worry about hurting their feelings, because they're hurting your success. Yeah. And anyone who's trying to take away my success, they're out of my life instantly. And you guys have known my story. I got a negative, like my dad is, everyone's like, oh, you should be, they say, honor thy father, all that stuff. And my dad, he's just not a positive person. And he's been a negative in my life. So I got him out of my life 10 years ago or so. And I haven't talked to him since. And it's hard to do that. But I know in the end, I'm more positive because of it. I'm not being brought down because of it. So if you have people in your life that are bringing you down and not supporting you in any way, like I would assess that and say, hey, like, maybe you're not for me. I'm not married to this, I'm not married to this relationship, unless you are married to the relationship, but that's a whole other topic. But yeah, so for me, especially in this sport, it requires so much. You got to be surrounded by positive people. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get derailed and just go down the other road. So I would say, assess your relationships, make sure they're positive for you. If they're not, and you're holding on to something for no reason of benefit whatsoever, find new friends,
Yeah, true. You guys need an Adam in your life. That's what I say. The next question, they ask, when you are in peak week or about to step on stage, where is your mind?
Ooh.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
This is going for you.
Yeah. Peak week is a funny thing because that's when you're probably being the most cautious with your diet. And a lot of people might find it to be the most miserable week out of them all, depending on where you're at. I mean, For us, the goal is to be ready ahead of time. So that way, peak week, we can take it kind of easy and just coast into the show. That way, it's so much less stressful than to have that worry like, oh my gosh, it's peak week and I gotta do all this cardio and restrict my calories so much because I'm not ready yet, but I'm trying to get ready. That's what we don't want. We want to be already ready to step on stage. So that way, peak week, we just literally take it so easy, give the body a little chance to rest, recover, and that way you can bring out the best physique possible because you've de-inflamed. So for me, peak week, my mindset is like, you know, I'm definitely nervous during peak week at certain times when, like, for example, Adam brings up like the Olympia or something, I'll be like, I start to, my heart beat a little fast, like, oh my gosh, the first call out. Like I can just like picture myself on stage and they're like doing the first call out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm in first call out. I hope I'm in first call out. You know what I mean? So like that feeling, I can just like recreate that in my mind because I've been through that so many times, just waiting on the sideline, waiting for the first call out, seeing if I'm in there. So let's hope I'm in there this year. But as far as like what my mindset is like as when with training and diet, you know, I think the diet thing is interesting because for some reason peak week tends to be the easiest because by that point, food is just fuel. Like I'm not like obsessing over food peak week because I'm so focused. I'm so in the zone that I'm just like, I'll eat it. It's fuel. But it's not like something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to eat. I'm going to eat now. Honestly, a lot of people, I think the most common question, like when you get interviewed and stuff, so what cheat meal are you looking forward to? Like, I'm not even thinking about a cheat meal. Like, I'm not. It's not even on my mind. Like I said, I'd rather have a shower
Yeah.
than a cheat meal anyway. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing because it's like I'm so in the zone. I get like nervous at certain points if it gets brought up or if I think of it. But yeah, I guess it's nice to have Adam around too because you can kind of calm my nerves a little bit and I can kind of converse with you about it. But yeah, I mean, food is fuel peak week and workouts are a lot easier usually, hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty good experience.
That makes sense. It's all come to that. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I think too, is that like the way that we peak week is that we don't go through all these crazy manipulations and guesswork at the end. So it's not super stressful. So it's very predictable too. I think that adds to the stress of peak week, where if you're like going through all these manipulations where your body's changing day by day too much, and you're like, oh, what am I going to look like on Saturday? What am I going to look like? So like having a predictable peak week, I think helps with that too. But yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, for you, that makes a lot of sense. So that's pretty cool to hear from you, to be honest. All right, so here, my question is kind of, I know what he meant by the question, but it's kind of funny. It says, how often should you increase weights and win? So, well, one, let's answer the back part.
That's a very broad question.
Win, you should do that all the time. You should win daily. So winning is you doing good on your meal plan for the day. You telling that friend in your life who's being negative to get out, right? So that's winning. You do that daily. So I think he just worded that wrong. But how often should you increase weights? Well, that's a tough question because there's a lot of factors that go into it. But as far as your question going, which is we're talking about progressive overload. So let's bring it back for a second. So in its simplest form, let's explain bodybuilding, bikini building. Let's explain it in its simplest form and how we approach the gym part of it. Okay, so you basically start off lifting, let's say you start off lifting 10 pounds and then you do it 10 times. Okay, so that's the first time you did it. You did 10 pounds 10 times. And what happens is your body will say, whoa, I haven't done that before. Let me increase my muscle, increase my strength, whatever. That way, the next time Ashley lifts 10 pounds 10 times, I'm more prepared for it and I can be ready for her to do that to me, right? So you hit the 10 pounds and you do it 10 times and you create this stimulus. And then in the middle, and then your body adapts to that stimulus by doing whatever it has to do to adapt to it, hopefully build more muscle. Once you adapt to that stimulus, now when you do 10 pounds 10 times, it won't do too much for you, okay? Because your body is used to that stimulus. Your body's adapted to that stimulus. So then you want to do now 10 pounds 12 times or 12 pounds 10 times to create a new stimulus. And now your body adapts to that stimulus. And that's what bodybuilding is. So the window of adaptation, when you're adapting to it, is where you're building muscle. And then the stimulus is you doing the progression, more weights, more reps, lower rest periods, whatever, drop sets, things like that. So increasing the intensity. Now, so my thing is, if you could, we'd increase weights with the same form, with the same tempo, with the same rest period, every time. Obviously that's not going to work, or you'd have guys lifting, 1,000-pound curls at this point, lifting, for 10 years if they did it every single time. So the body doesn't work that way. So the goal is that you increase your intensity of the workout in some capacity using a micro progression system. So a little bit at a time, as often as you can, but still paying attention to the signs of when your body is running out of the ability to kind of adapt at that rate. So if you're feeling really tired, if you're feeling like you're not motivated to be in the gym, if you're feeling like your weights are going down, it might be time for what we call deload. And deload is essentially what it sounds like. You just take a week off the gym, basically, and you let your body resensitize to exercise, and then you start off from the beginning again with maybe less volume and kind of work your way up, type of thing. I like going hard for a long period of time in a very systematic approach. So I'll say, okay, look at Ashley. You need more shoulders, you need more lats. Let's hammer those for 2 months, 3 months. Take a week off, do it again, hammer for 2 to 3 months. Let's try to increase the weights each workout, decrease the rest periods, increase the stress, and hopefully by the end of that, we're reaching this progressive overload state. And if you look at like workout frequency and changing it up all the time, there's a lot of research showing that you changing it all the time isn't like this huge benefit. So for me, I like doing the same exercises in the same order for a period of time. That way I know for certain that I'm increasing weights in that same, with the same stress. So basically, give you an example. Let's say you do exercise 1, 2, 3, 4 1 week, and then the next week you go back to do exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, same order, same rest period, and then you increase your weights on exercise 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, now by the time you get to exercise 4, you were just as tired as you were the first week when you did exercise 4. So that's why I like the same order. A lot of times you'll get guys that go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 3, 2, 1, then 3, 2, 1, 4. How are you tracking that your weights are going up, that if you're not too dieted down? So that's a key factor. If your weights are going down, you're probably dieting too hard. You're not resting enough. So hopefully in that long answer, that gives you some insight to it. But often as you can without, with paying attention to the signs of too much stress, your body not being recovered. And I like it in that format where you're doing the same exercises in the same order for a period of time so you can track with accuracy how much you're lifting more each time. So that's a geeky approach, but it's it's tried and true. I've been using it for decades. A lot of guys use that same thing for decades, and it works, So there you go.
Good-ish.
Yeah, the hard
This
one.
is a great question for both of us here. What kind of changes are you looking to make to bring the best package to the Olympia? So Adam and I are both pretty public about like changes we need to make, and I'm definitely not too proud to say I got some changes to make that I can definitely work on to become a better bikini competitor. No one's perfect, and I'm always learning, constantly learning every single show, always give feedback. I am always super critical of myself. I see the pictures post show, I see the videos and think, little things I can definitely work on for sure. But some of the big things, an ongoing thing is I'm always trying to improve the shoulders. They've definitely improved a lot from the last few years. And we've really spent a lot of time dedicated to the shoulders. We've basically during this whole prep, just basically did upper body and not so much legs or glutes. We just now started to train legs and glutes, believe it or not. And that's because we're really trying to get the upper body to match the lower body, because in bikini, especially, it's, all about the proportions and symmetry. So to make my body more symmetrical, I need to work on the upper body to kind of match my lower body. My lower body was always pretty good at putting on muscle. In my, former track days, I've already had that muscle. I've had that hamstring since I came out of the womb, just like I came out hamstrings first, actually. It was one of those births that hamstring first.
I think he got stuck and the doctor pulled on him.
Yeah.
It popped him out a little more.
Yeah, it's a condition. But so, with that being said, we're always trying to work the upper body. So, kind of laid off the legs until the last few weeks to burn the calories and to also perk the muscle up a little bit. But so shoulders is an ongoing project, but we've come a long, long way.
Yeah.
I think another thing that we're working on is my presentation as well. I'm more of a, here's the thing. So I'm definitely not like a sexy competitor. I don't think not, that's not my personality. I'm not sexy. No. If anything, I'm like cutesy, bouncy, athletic, I guess is my style of posing, and a little bit more on the basic side as well. Like I'm not super like, doing all these fancy little things and stuff. I'm kind of like get to the point kind of poser, if that makes any sense. I need to slow that ish down. Okay. Stop with the bouncies because I'm a little bit bouncy, which makes me kind of fast. I just need to calm down and take my time and be a little bit more flamboyant with my posing. So that's like an ongoing thing that we're always trying to work
Yeah.
on too, is add a little spice, add a little sass to the posing. And I definitely have the shortest presentation time wise on stage for sure.
Yeah.
And it's always been like that. Even when I won Olympias, back in like 2015 and stuff, I've always had the shortest. And, it was just brought up to us by one judge that, maybe you can add a little bit of extra personality to it. And I agree, I think having that little bounce and the athletic bounce doesn't really translate as well on stage. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
like more of my personality than sexy. I can never be a sexy, no, not my thing. That's okay though. I
Yeah,
don't want to be.
it's just like all of the posing. You just get the trends are always changing, and we got to keep up with the trends. And it's really gone that direction,
Yeah,
slower,
for
more.
sure.
Yeah, and it's just that's just what you're seeing. So it
Mhm.
makes sense to just stick with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see the new routine coming
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
we're really got to work on it in the next
Yeah.
few weeks. But yeah, I plan on doing that. So
Cool. So I like this question. It says best advice for post-show blues. And so
the post-show blues.
post-show blues. So yeah, so honestly, the best advice for post-show blues is one. So I think that you should already kind of be thinking about what you want to be doing after the show. And that way you don't just like, go through what we talked about a little earlier with people like blowing up. The thing that's going to give you the biggest blues is 3 weeks after the show when you put on 20 pounds and lost all your progress. Like that's going to give you the biggest blues because you're going to go back, you're going to look at your pictures and look how awesome you looked, and then look at yourself in the mirror 3 weeks later. If you just don't pay attention to your post-show diet, that will be the hardest thing. And I've seen that happen at minimum 100 times in my life, where someone's just like, they go from loving their physique, selfie pictures all the time. They've never seen a mirror they didn't like. They had to stop at every mirror, right? Because you look awesome and there's no reason that you shouldn't. I think it's great. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm just gonna wear like baggy shirts, right? Like, what a mind, like mess with, right? At that point. So that's the first thing. And I know I'm hammering on that today, but it's just the shows are starting to end, the season's coming to the end. And I'm gonna see a lot of people in the wintertime blowing up. And I'm just trying to give you guys that warning. It'll come on quick, and it comes on it's just like a snake in the grass. It just bites you out of nowhere. And you're like,
comparison. Wow.
I mean, it's just harmful mentally for people. Like the depression that happens with that is absolutely valid. Like it happens, and then girls they're not confident. They go from thinking that they're awesome and sexy and all this, and they're just so happy, and then just instantly they feel like they're fat and they're ugly and they're this, and I'm not saying that they are. It's just this is what I hear from them. They're like, I felt so great. I looked so awesome, and then now I feel fat and I feel like ugly. Like they want to take pictures, and then like it just sucks to see that, and it's so avoidable. So anyway, post-show blues. First thing, stick to your diet. If you're having a hard time sticking to your diet, because most people need a goal to stick to it, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's you. But come up with a goal. One of the best ways of coming up with the goal, like after the show, is look at your pictures. So the best time to do a physique assessment is after you finish your show. Because when you do a physique assessment, we want to be able to see like all your muscles and see what they look like and see what you look like when you're tan and oiled and show ready. And then we can really see the final package. And once we see that, we say, hey, pull back the curtain. So lose the body fat, pull back the curtain. Let's see what you got under there. And then once you see that, then we can really give you an assessment on, okay, you need to work on this, you need to work on this, you need to work on this. And then just like any sport, then you go and practice and you go and work on those things. So your goals don't stop because the show finished. So when you finish the show, now you have a real opportunity to assess yourself and start working on a plan to make those improvements to go to the next show. So what I would say is look at your pictures, do an assessment, and then come up with a timeline. You say, okay, get with your coach, look at your post-show pictures and be like, okay, what do I need to work on? They'll say, okay, you need to work on you're this, you're that, you're this. I think it's going to take you 6 months to build the muscle in these areas to get there. Let's look at doing a show at 9 months or 8 months, whatever, after we make that progress. and get you there, whatever the case may be. And then now you're like, now you're shooting for the next show, or now you're shooting for whatever, a photo shoot or whatever it is, you know? So come up with another goal. Your goals shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be done after the show. This is an ongoing process. And so if anything you get from this podcast today, I think I'm hammering on the fact that this is like any other sport, and it requires, if you want to excel at it and if you want to get your physique to the top level, even whether it's sport or just for yourself, there's no like end point. It's not like, oh, just during prep I'm serious. The people who are just during prep like serious look good once a year. The rest of the year they're always soft, and then they never make improvements, and they're always chasing their last physique. The people who take it seriously from show to show and make improvements from show to show, those are the people that excel and get to the top level. And we've all seen both of them. And you got to be honest with yourself if you're one of them. You know, are you just chasing your last physique every time you get on stage? And if that's the case, and you're like looking at your pictures from year to year, and they look exactly the same, and it was so much work just to get to the same, you're doing something wrong in your off season. So that's the biggest thing to avoid the post show blues.
I get the post show boredom. You know,
Yeah.
I don't get sad, but I'm like, man, I need some excitement in my life. Give me a show to do, which is going to drive me crazy because after Olympia, there really isn't any. Pretty sure the Arnold was I don't know. You know what? I've seen it. People make YouTube videos about it, but I haven't seen the exact article where it says that the Arnold's been postponed. So I don't want to say for sure postponed, but it looks like it might be.
Pretty credible sources.
Yeah, pretty credible. But it's weird that we haven't seen like a statement from the Arnold committee or anything like that.
What's weird is I was hearing about it being canceled about 4 or 5 days before like Nick Strength and Power and RX Muscle put out a video. And I was like, okay, I heard about it, but usually I'll hear about it and then it'll be like, and I'll usually I'll tell Ashley, I'll be like, yeah, I kind of heard this is happening. And then we never know if it's actually going to happen. And then all of a sudden there's like a big announcement, but there hasn't been any announcement.
Well, there's been announcement from people, credible sources in the industry, but not the main source, which I'm thinking is kind of strange, right? Weird. You would think that they would be the first one to kind of put it out. So I don't want to say for sure it's been postponed, but it's looking like it is. It makes sense. I mean, I don't think this is all going to go away in 3 months or whatever. So, but anyway, with that being said, there's still a pretty big gap after Olympia, and it's going to drive me crazy. So hopefully with the new contest prep center, it keeps me busy.
Yeah.
And we can be entertained. And I'll try to get onto my regular schedule as if I'm prepping for a show anyway. Like, okay, I'm going to do more Orange Theory classes at least a few times a week. I'm going to train with Adam once or something. So having a schedule, I think, definitely helps you feel like you're, kind of working towards something. Okay, this is another good question.
Oh, you know what else too we should tell everyone is that when you're done with the Olympia, you're going to be taking coaching clients too. Yeah. Just a few though, guys. She's not going to be like, she doesn't want to get overwhelmed. She's still an athlete. Yeah.
And I'll definitely do posing too though. Posing, I'm pretty open to doing, definitely in person first, but yeah.
Yeah, so she'll be doing posing classes. I mean, pretty much we can say starting in January at the prep center. Yeah. That's no problem. And then, taking on a few clients too. So it's going to be really cool.
To do by the way, did I miss the coaches Zoom meeting? Was that already a thing? Did I miss that?
Yes, but
oh my God, Adam,
I recorded it.
I don't know why I thought it was the 9th. I'm sorry. I have so many dates that is jumbling in my head, and usually I'm pretty on it.
I'll record it so you can hear it.
Once you said that, I was like, wait a minute, was that the same? I want to join that one. But anyway, that's we could talk about that later.
Yeah.
The next question, I love this question. How does the final 2 to 3 weeks of prep change from previous weeks? Like, does diet change? Do we eliminate pop or sauces? Yeah, the diet's changing the last month of prep, that's for sure. And the closer we get to a show, the less variety I have, I would say. And we slowly kind of start to eliminate things. Like, for example, I'm 2 weeks out now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate egg whites, for example, and dairy as well, just because we don't know if it's actually going to do anything, but just in case. Because, one thing I do know is that I have a little bit of an intolerance to egg whites. I took a food sensitivity test at the Contest Prep Center, and it showed that my levels of intolerance are rather high on egg whites. Yeah. So that doesn't mean I'm allergic to it. Doesn't mean I want to break out in hives. That means I might have a little bit of bloating, distension, inflammation from egg whites. And we've mentioned this before, like, will it make a difference? We don't know, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to eliminate that. So we're going to get, I guess, I hate using the word cleaner, but cleaner and cleaner and cleaner as we get close to a show. So right now I'm eliminating the egg whites, carbs too. We're taking away carbs right now until further notice. Probably add those back in maybe the last week or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the last week, that's when I'm going to eliminate like the pop, the artificial sweeteners, and stuff like that. Things that I don't really need, but that's okay because, like I just mentioned, like a few minutes ago, by that time, guys, food is just fuel. It's just like, you know what? I'm eating. I'm hungry, but I'm not necessarily like obsessing over like food or anything like that. Maybe that's just me. I don't know if that's a common thing, but I get so in the zone that I'm just like almost not even hungry to a point because I'm just like so interested in competing and just like so excited and anxious. So
yeah. I think here's the thing that people need to think about too with this last part of it. The last week, you're like, why are you guys doing so much? You don't need to do that much. Like, we know we don't need to do that much. And we know that a lot of the things that we do are probably not going to make a big difference. If any difference at all, some of them. But what if, right? That's the thing. It's but what if? What if she has a very mild sensitivity to dairy? What if she has, whatever, right? And we tested some of these things and most of them showed up. So we know what most of them are. Even weird things like
mustard.
Cashews, right? Was it?
Yeah, I love cashews and avocados and almonds and peanuts.
Yeah.
So easy switch. I just switch it to pecans or macadamia nuts.
Yeah, and so
walnuts.
We did test to it, so we do have that advantage where we know what causes it. But sometimes we just don't know. You don't know what causes it, and there's not a way to test for everything. So we do eliminate a lot that last week just in case. Just in case.
You would never want to think like, well, what if I just would have, taken it away? Maybe I would have had a flatter stomach. So, we just be on the safe side. And we also got to put out there too, we don't cut salt the last week. We don't cut salt ever. We don't cut water ever. Okay. Yeah. I'm literally drinking tons of water till the day of the show. I'm using hot sauce, salts, sodium, whatever. That's fine. That's not going to help me in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it's going to hurt me. So, or taking away is going to hurt me. I should clarify. Taking away that kind of stuff is going to just kind of deflate me. And, because the muscles, they're made of water too. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. The only time I do, I guess, cut water, and it's not even cutting water really, it's just the day of the show. I'll just sip on water only because I don't want to go on stage with a water belly. Like it just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta have the smallest little waist possible. And I don't want to be drinking like a gallon before I go on stage and be all like bloated with water and then having to pee right before I go on stage. So that's the only time, like show day, I'll just kind of sip just to stay hydrated. But yeah, just want to put that out there because I always get those questions.
Yeah, the water thing.
When do you cut sodium or when do you cut water? And I'm like, I don't. I really don't.
And I'm always playing with the idea of it too. And I've been playing a little bit lately because there's some other coaches that I'm working with too that are like that. We have different ideas that we try on different things if people are up for it with like the sodium thing. But I haven't gotten much better of a result with that reducing of sodium. The one thing I've noticed too is that when you eat so clean, you naturally reduce sodium towards the end. So it's kind of like a natural progression anyway within your diet. But the whole thing is, and people here, I think there's two different kinds of thought process in prep. You have people that are trying to make this more like lifestyle, more lifestyle balance and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, well, you don't need to do this, so we're not going to do it, whatever. Like you guys have to understand that this is not a lifestyle type of scenario. We're not, like any sport isn't a lifestyle scenario. Like you don't play baseball. Like, how can I make this more lifestyle for me while I'm playing baseball? Like it's not, you're intense. You're trying to hit a ball. You're not supposed to do that. Right. It goes again, like you're supposed to just sit there and conserve energy. Right. So this is the same thing. This is a sport. It's not meant to be the most, like it's meant to be hard, and then the harder you work at it, the more you're going to excel at it. The more you're willing to give to it, the more you're going to excel at it, just like anything. So yeah, it's not lifestyle. We're going to make sacrifices, and that's how, and everyone at that top level is going to be doing that. They're not doing an IFYM diet, eating pizza to be balanced in life when they're getting ready for the Olympia, guys. Sorry to break it to you. That's just not the way it works. So, and the people who are like telling you that aren't prepping people for the Olympia. I promise you that. So like the reality is they're very meticulous about their foods. There's a lot of factors besides just macronutrients that go into it, and one of the things too about when we talk about fullness, a lot of the times the fullness factor where you're full or not comes down to how much water and electrolytes you have. That's like one of the bigger things, like water, especially of course, more so than like just carbs. Like if you want to go flat, take diuretics and don't drink water. You'll go flat, and you'll go flat quickly, and you'll be eating carbs and still go flat. So, anyways, wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, it is overly cautious because just in case. But who cares? Like, how's it? It's probably good for you to get all that stuff out of your system once in a while anyway. I don't know if it is, but but you just not eating clean for a week, like, how's that going to hurt you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not a big deal, really. I think a lot of people make it into a bigger deal than it is. But let me tell you, when you are a week out from Olympia, you're not really like, well, you shouldn't be really concerned about having the tastiest, the best, most free foods, I guess. You know what I mean? So just, it's 1 week, it's fine. After all of the hard work I put in, believe me, 1 week of eating clean is no big deal. It really isn't.
Cool. So we'll do one. What do you think? One more?
Sure.
One more
Yeah,
each
one
or
more each.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here is a question I have. I actually have a couple of these questions in different ways. So the question is, I have very developed lower body, like figure girls. How do I transition into a bikini physique? And then the other question I keep getting is, should I sprint or long distance run to lean out your legs? Okay. So kind of, I think they're the same questions. I don't think she means lean out in terms of losing body fat. I think she means lean out and because she's overdeveloped. It's the same person asking this question, and other people have asked it too. So if you have an overdeveloped lower body, you have more muscle on the lower body. This is the funny thing I run into with girls who have this, especially in the bikini division. They'll be like, oh yeah, my quads and legs are just too big. And so now I only work them once a week. Or, oh, my shoulders are too big, so now I just work them once a week. And then I see them do their once a week workout, and I'm like, you're working out pretty hard. You're not going to lose any size when you're working out hard once a week on your legs or on your shoulders or whatever. Like if you're trying to lose muscle to be more balanced, like that takes time off of working that muscle. So that's the first thing. Don't be afraid to do that. You know, it is scary. I would say the hardest part of me being a prep coach, because I did come up in like this really hardcore environment, you know, since I was basically 13 years old. I've been in like Venice Beach, hardcore bodybuilding, Southern California, like crazy bodybuilding community. They didn't even have bikini back then, right? So like everyone was harder, more weight, more often, more time in the gym, more everything. It was always more, right? The hardest thing I had to do as a coach was when I would look at the bikini division or any other division too, where I had to pull someone back. That's the hardest thing to do. Where you say, hey, Ashley, don't train your legs for 3 months. Like that's hard to do, because now instead of it being a work effort thing, because if I say, Ashley, work out your legs 3 times a week, well, if she's not developed enough, well, that's on her body, her genetics, her work effort, her intensity. If I say stop working out, now that's on the coach, right? Now it's like, okay, that's your fault. She's not as developed, right? So that was the hardest thing I had to do, because I just had a really hard time with saying, okay, you shouldn't work out this muscle for this long or whatever. But as I started getting more comfortable with it, I realized how much people actually hold on to their muscle. They hold on to it for a while.
Yeah.
It's hard to lose muscle, you know, if you're being active the rest of your body. So that's one thing. If you're trying to bring down your lower body, play with that, you know. I have a client right now that I haven't had her work out with weights at all for over 6 weeks. And she was like, I'm learning so much about my body right now during this time. I thought if I didn't lift weights for a week, I would be like a sloppy mess. She's gotten harder. She's gotten better. Her physique has gotten more balanced. And she's like, but it was the right thing for her. And so now we're playing with it where we'll do a workout for like a week and then no workout for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because she's reached that upper level of how much muscle she can have. But what's really been cool is because of the weightlifting that she's not doing, her waistline has gone down 2 inches.
There you go.
Because you don't realize how much you're using your core when you lift weights too. So creating that balance. And so it's a really cool thing. So that's one thing I will say. It's hard to do that though. It's hard to not work out. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It kind of messes with your head for sure. It's like, but you got to think logically. It's not like you're just going to wake up and all of a sudden your leg muscles are gone.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, but it's kind of like you feel like you have to, like you're obligated to, because you are a competitor and competitors train hard.
Yeah.
So you got to train it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a pretty common thing. You know, we've been to seminars too where girls would be like, oh my gosh, my shoulders are too big, but I don't know how to train them. And it's like, well, you're training them. How often are you training? Oh, 3 days a week. And
but just high reps.
Yeah, well, you know, you can lay off of those and focus on the other body parts that need a little more loving, you know, just like me, my shoulders need a little more loving. So we're like, hey legs, you can chill out for a second, you know, chill out for a little bit here.
Yeah.
We're going to give some lovins to these shoulders.
So that's one thing too, is you can excel that's the really cool part. So I say there's 3 phases. I say bodybuilding, bikini building, bikini sculpting. So you have bodybuilding is when you first start working out in the gym, You do everything. It's fun. You're doing everything, squats, deadlifts. You might even be training chest at that point. And then you do bikini building, which is basically you're training specifically for bikini. So you won't do chest anymore. You're doing more glute work. You're doing more shoulder work. You're training specific areas for the bikini competitor. And then you do bikini sculpting, which is where Ashley's at, which is where you've reached the level of where you've competed and now you're looking at your physique and you're targeting certain areas. The bikini sculpting phase, I think, is the most beneficial phase because you can take away, like I can tell someone, don't work out your legs at all for 3 months, but increase the volume of your shoulders and lats, and we can get those bigger faster. And then your body's gonna catch up and be more balanced at a faster rate because some muscles are growing faster while other muscles are maybe coming down a little bit. And then you start sculpting this perfect work of art, which is so cool to see, you know, just like, you're just like, you know, chiseling this piece of granite until they're like beautiful works of art. And I love that part of the sculpting phase of it, but it does take a trained eye to do that. And you need to really assess yourself properly. So the other part of the question was, what cardio should you do to lean out your legs? So first part was the workout is huge, you know, whether you should or shouldn't or whatever you do for that. The second part is the cardio form. So with HIIT cardio and doing like HIIT cardio, like if you're doing real hardcore HIIT cardio and you're like, let's say you're pushing a sled, that you're probably not going to shrink your leg size by doing something like that. You know, you're going to, so how we do it, do your cardio on based on how you want to look. If you want to look like a sprinter with big jacked legs, you're probably going to want to do HIIT cardio. If you want to look like a marathon runner at that period and bring your legs down, then probably marathon type running is that's going to do it. So if your legs are jacked right now, too big, probably for a little while, yeah, doing endurance-based cardio is the way to go to help bring them down. I doubt that sprinting would do it for most people. Now, a lot of that has to be also the other thing too is to bring a muscle down. You kind of got to be in a caloric deficit too. It's really hard to lose muscle when you're in a surplus or maintenance calories, especially when you're doing any activity. So, so I will say there's a lot of factors that go into it, but don't be afraid to not work out, to try new things.
Yeah, I like it. I guess. So we're going to end off on this really important question that the world needs to know the answer to.
It's such a dumb question. Who asked
this? This is the most important.
I almost want to call them out, but I'm not going to.
This is the most important question. If you remember anything from this podcast, forget what Adam had to say. Forget what Adam had to say.
Compared to this, like it means
this is life. It's changing. And I know this is probably a question that every single person on earth is thinking, but is too afraid.
Yeah.
Too afraid to ask. This sneaky turbo underscore AMG, sneaky turbo underscore AMG. You're bold one, man. And let's give him a round of applause.
It's a guy or a girl?
I don't know. It's not even a person in the profile pic. Okay. Louder, Adam. Thank you. And those of you at home, if your hand is not on the steering wheel, please join us. Round of applause. Anyway, without further ado, here is the question that Sneaky Turbo asked. He asks, do competitors, see,
he did spell it wrong, yeah.
Do competitors smell like BO on show day? Wow, that is a profound question. And everyone is wondering. And the answer to that is God, yes. I mean, most of it the men. Very much so.
Very much the men. The men
pumping up and they're sweating off their tan. But here's the thing.
Men are gross on show day, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, totally. So listen, when you get that tan on, right? When you first put it on, it smells nice. It smells like citrus. And any company is this same way, okay? Yeah. It smells nice when you put it on, but when it sits on the skin for like a day or so, it gets a very unique scent, and it's not very pleasant. I don't even know how to describe the scent, like burnt rubber and lemons and salami.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you don't put on deodorant because sometimes it turns the tan green.
No deodorant, no cologne.
And we're talking a day and a half of that, basically. Like,
Yeah.
no.
The
do it.
men's pump up room, even like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Especially at that stage, because the guys, when you're sweating a lot, doing cardio a lot, I think you just naturally sweat more. So when they're backstage pumping, like you get these, 220-pound bodybuilders, like they're big human beings. They have more fluid, so they smell.
But I will say on the female side, I have smelt a few competitors, but they smell a little different. Like, okay, definitely not gonna name names, but like this, don't worry, it's nobody that I even compete with till this day. It was like back in the day. I remember a few girls smelled so much like fish, and they were known to just eat fish and asparagus, fish and asparagus. That's it. Like they would kind of brag about it online.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't their breath, which is disgusting. Like they would walk past me and I could smell fish. It was gross. And you guys wonder why I don't eat seafood? Do I smell like a chicken then?
No,
if they smell like fish, because that's what they eat a lot of. Do I smell like a chicken?
I've never smelled you like that. No, okay. I've never smelled you smell like a chicken. That's
you would
funny.
tell me though, right?
Yeah, if you smelled like chicken, I would say that'd be funny. I would tell you for sure.
I mean, if it's like fried chicken, maybe that's okay.
I would like that smell.
Chicken tenders.
I'd probably bite your shoulder.
But yeah, competitors, they do definitely smell. And that's why I'm really like, I want to say I'm very, very up on my hygiene. I would like to say, like, I'm always flossing, brushing, perfume, deodorant. And that's why I like to take a shower right after I'm done. That's why I will never go to a restaurant with my tan on, like some people do. I don't know how people do it. I'm like, no, give me a shower.
Yeah.
Give me a shower.
You just feel kind of gross with it.
Yes.
Now, let me give you guys a tip for all you out there who are sweaters. So if you're a sweater, you'll have really white armpits, like if you're a big time sweater, but then sometimes you'll get tan that'll run down because you're sweating, you're dripping sweat. I know a girl, I'm not gonna say her name, but she sweats a lot. She's got like a sweating problem. And she puts 2 towels, like rolled towels under her armpits. And she rolls them. I know. And she just holds them like this while she's backstage. And then right before she goes up, she goes boom, and she lets them drop out, and she loses 2 towels every time. And yeah, she has no tan marks running down.
She's very efficient of detoxifying or something. I don't know. Not holding water.
I know a couple girls that have like sweating issues.
Really?
So yeah, they have to take medication for it. So
interesting.
Yeah, so she just has one of those.
Okay.
And the dude's is jumping in for the podcast too. So anyway, I guess with that,
he's only using the dog for views.
With that,
I'm kidding, kind
of. No, he's good for views.
Bye,
so with that,
everyone.
We'll leave you off and say thank you so much for listening. Tune in next week. Next week's going to be a good one because we're going over Ashley's final thoughts going into the Olympia. That's pretty cool. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Keep asking those questions. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.